Okay, y'all, it's late into the evening. Let's talk about crash outs. My kid asked me today, what do I do when I see people having a hard time in public? My answer was pretty straightforward. I see people having a hard time in public almost daily. I see people crashing out at the store, and sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it ain't. I've seen people crash out at school. I've seen people crash out at my school where I go to school. I've seen teachers crash out. I've seen university professors have full-on meltdowns. And it could be very dysregulating for a lot of the people watching, and it can be very dysregulating for you in the classroom because you're witnessing it. Right? So what do? The best thing I'll tell you is to have some empathy. Is usually we need to realize that someone's having a hard day. Someone came into the room, came into the space, and they weren't quite themselves. Why do I say this? Because nobody wakes up in the morning with the idea that they're going to go into a Starbucks and start screaming at somebody, or they're going to go into the DMV and start throwing chairs and get arrested, right? No one wakes up with the idea that they're going to go into the grocery store and start knocking shit down and screaming at people or taking off their clothes and running around naked. But people have crash outs like that all the time. And sometimes we often wonder, like, wow, I've known that person a long time. They're very reasonable and level-headed. Why did they have that crash out? And I'm just going to tell you, it's a really shitty world that we're living in. And there is a lot of external pressures on us all the time that a lot of it we're aware of, and some of it we're not aware of, and some of it we have learned to live with, like a frog in a boiling pot of water. And you just get used to the heat. You just get used to it, and you learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable environments. You get used to paying $800 power bills. You get used to every time you drive by a cop wondering if they're going to arrest you or pull you over. You wonder if every job interview you go to, if they're going to judge you because of your demographic, and they're going to take a look at your lovely visage and say, yeah, I don't like that person, right? Or I'm going to walk in and they're like, yeah, that person might be too old, or I don't like anybody named Stefan, or, who is he to wear a Kiss t-shirt from 1979? Whatever, right? It's from the very minute to the massive. And we're all dealing with what's called allostatic load. And when you're dealing with allostatic load, the tendency that we have is we start putting valuations on the allostatic load that I'm carrying is heavier than the allostatic load that that person is carrying. And I'm going to tell you that that's the most foolish thing that you could get caught up in, but everybody does it. And if you don't think that they don't, just go into, like, if you're a man, go into a group of women, and they're going to tell you how hard they have it. If you're a man, if you're a woman, go into a group of men, and they'll start bitching about how they can never get a date and never find a girlfriend, and none of the girls are good anymore. Whatever, right? They all complain. If you're a person of color, you're probably going to talk about your experience. If you're a white person, you're probably going to talk about your experience, right? Sexuality, gender, education, non-education, things you own, people who are unhoused or homeless, people who are well off and, have all types of existential dread on top of them, where they think everybody's out to get them, or only that their entire lives, because they've had money, that nobody's real and nobody likes them for them because they only like them for their money, and they feel fake, and they feel like paper, right? And you could add any demographic or any country of origin to that one, and that's a pernicious one, because I've seen people of all stripes, color, ages, and generation struggle with that one, right? It's like, do they like me for me? And that's a hard thing, because the most normal and human thing is to want to be included, not to feel accepted, which is what you often hear people say, oh, everybody just wants to be accepted. No, people get accepted all the time. Everybody wants to be included, and that's a big difference. And everywhere we go, we want to find or be a part of something that feels like our circle, right? So when we're having a hard day and we wake up and we don't realize it, and we just get mad and we lose it, And then that's when you see someone throwing a drink at somebody at Starbucks. That's when you see someone rolling down their window and screaming at somebody. That's when you see someone throwing chairs at DMV. That's when you see someone crashing out in a classroom and yelling at all the students. That's when you see a teacher throwing up his books and walking out. That's when you see a kid throwing themselves on the floor. That's when you see your kid come downstairs into the kitchen at night and say, I don't know why you guys don't support me, right? All those things happen because of allostatic load, because we just get used to the stresses we have and it becomes unbearable. And I don't care who you are or how old you are or what demographic you are, we are all trapped in the same goddamn vice. Life is a giant shit sandwich, and everybody has told you this. And for a lot of us, we are, trapped somewhere, whether it's, in poverty, in a lack of education, we're trapped being marginalized because of our demographic or our country of origin or our skin tone or the amount of melanin that God gave us or didn't give us, right? The fact that we might be like living in some podunk shithole and we have an IQ of 175 and we never did anything with it, and the stress is just too much because you've never felt a part of anything, and you knew that you could do things, but there was no opportunity. That happens all the time, but we never talk about it. And we never talk about having compassion, having real compassion for the people that we see crashing out. Now we just kind of judge them and marginalize them. Look at that look at that asshole, look at that person, oh, look at that Karen, oh, look at that baby boomer, right? We spent all summer talking about the problems and the ontological positioning and selfishness of baby boomers, right? Yeah, so there you go. There's 8 minutes on crashing out, and food for thought, something to think about. Remember, this is long form, unscripted, extemporaneous TikTok from me to you. I do my best to just provide you a message and something to think about. When you get done watching this and you put your phone down, hopefully something I said will make you think. And when you wake up tomorrow, maybe you'll have something to laugh about, something to smile about, or you'll think, God, that guy's a jackass. Hopefully, you think that, because if you do, you'll be smiling about it. I told a bunch of people today one of my personal mottos that I live by, and I tell my kid all the time, right? Laughter is evidence of freedom. And the more I hear you laugh, the better off I know you are. And the further away from a dark place you're moving, right? So whenever you feel encapsulated in something difficult and heavy and you're crashing out, for God's sakes, please start laughing. Even if you're just laughing at yourself, it's okay. Okay? Take care of yourselves. Practice kindness. Speak people in the way you wish to be spoken to. Be good to yourself. Say 3 good things to yourself in the mirror every day. Be good to animals. We'll talk tomorrow.